Okay, this is a little demonstration of the gear reduction drive that I'm mimicking from an accessory that South Bend Lathe made way back in the day that's not really available anymore. And I just thought it would be a cool thing to make. So this print here represents the apron of the lathe. This is the boss here where the carriage handle attaches to, and you move your handle to move the carriage back and forth. Okay. It already has a boss on it. I will need to machine a little key at the bottom though. This part here is the case for the device I'm going to make, and the blue represents a bronze bushing that I will need to machine to fit in there. So the case will be made out of 12L14 steel, and the blue will be a bronze bushing. That's going to fit over the boss on the apron, so like that. Now you can see how there's a key there that will fit in there and stop the case from rotating. I didn't print the key for the little representation here because it's good enough as it is. The 3D print is pretty tight down there. Okay, next up we have a little brake shoe. The brake shoe fits down here in this boss that I'll machine out. A little tricky to get in there. There we go. And that brake shoe is just pressed with a 1024 bolt. Okay. Then we have a bearing, a thrust bearing that will go down here. And then we have this hub assembly here. Now this is the input sun gear, and the input sun gear rides on this hub assembly, and this hub assembly extends down into here so it can be braked. So that'll go on like that, and then as you tighten the screw, so it rotates just fine, but then as you tighten the screw, it presses that brake against the hub and this can no longer rotate. So that's the brake for the input side. Next up we have a thrust bearing. We'll take the load of the carrier being pressed against it, and then actually we'll build the planetary set. I'll take this out and bring in the planetary and assemble this as a unit. So this is a planet carrier, and the planet carrier is going to be attached to the hand wheel itself. Now also, this will be a little tricky bit of machining, but it will need a little boss machine down here, because this will take a little pin, and the pin will secure into the output gear to cause it to go into direct drive mode. So I will assemble the carrier onto the wheel. Some tiny little screws here. This carrier will be a complicated piece to machine, but it's definitely very machinable. Nothing on here is impossible to machine on a basic manual lathe and mill. Okay, so now our carrier is affixed to the hand wheel. And as I said, we'll have a dog point screw, which will go in here. And that comes through here, and we'll pin the output gear so it can't rotate. That's for direct drive mode. We have a thrust bearing here. And we have the output sun gear, and the output sun gear also has a thrust bearing. The planet gears themselves are a compound gear. You see it printed in blue and brown to represent the output planets and the input planets, but these are a compound gear. They don't move independently. They go on here. Okay, then we'll have the pins that the planets ride on will need to be a little bit longer. They'll actually extend out here, and we'll have a cover here that those pins will ride in. And that's important because then this whole thing pushes against the thrust bearing right there. For now, I'll just assemble it as a unit. So that goes over there. And we can put this in. There we are. And then finally, we'll put this whole assembly into the body. Like that. And we'll look down there and figure out, we'll align the key, the output vertically, and then the shaft can go right through there. There we got it. And finally, there's a cap on the hand wheel, and that goes right into the shaft. So this whole assembly is axially constrained on the shaft itself, which is why the body here can't be allowed to rotate. Now, we'll back out the screw, tighten the brake. Now we should see if we get the screw tight enough here. Now we get a 9.4 to 1 reduction on the output. Which works quite nice. And then if we remove the brake so that the input sun can rotate, and then we'll tie the output sun to the carrier with the dog point screw here. Now we get a direct drive output. So there's your direct drive output. All you have to do is back out the screw here and tighten the brake. Now you get your gear reduction drive. So I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's going to work just fine. Now let's make it for real out of metal.